I don't know. Trying to do different intros, but running out of ideas. Anyway, chapter 23. Me, myself, and all the little T-Rexes here on my shirt, we're really excited to see what's under the hood. So, while I got you here, you wild hooligans, let's go ahead and dive on in. Chapter 23. It was the longest day. Mindlessly hot, unspeakably hot, too hot to move or even think. The countryside, the village of Tree Gap, the wood, all lay defeated. Nothing stirred. The sun was a ponderous circle without edges, a roar without a sound, a blazing glare so thorough and remorseless that even in the Foster's parlor with curtains drawn it seemed an actual presence. You could not shut it out. Winnie's mother and grandmother sat plaintive all afternoon in the harbor, fanning themselves and sipping lemonade, their hair unsettled and their knees loose. It was totally unlike them, this lapse from gentility, and it made them much more interesting. But Winnie didn't stay with them. Instead, she took her own brimming glass to her room and sat in her little rocker by the window. Once she had hidden Jessie's bottle in a bureau drawer, there was nothing to do but wait. In the hall outside her room, her grandmother's clock ticked deliberately, unimpressed with anyone's impatience, and Winnie found herself rocking to its rhythm, forward, back, tick, tock, tick, tock. She tried to read, but it was so quiet that she could not concentrate, and so she was glad when at last it was time for supper. It was something to do, though none of them could manage more than a nibble. But later, when Winnie went out again to the fence, she saw that the sky was changing. It was not so much clouding up as thickening somehow. From every direction at once, the blank blue gone to haze, and then, as the sun sank reluctantly behind the treetops, the haze hardened to a brilliant brownish yellow. In the wood, the leaves turned underside up, giving the trees a silvery cast. The air was noticeably heavier. It pressed on Winnie's chest and made her breathing difficult. She turned and went back into the cottage. "It's going to rain, I think," she told the prostrate group in the parlor, and the news was received with little moans of gratitude. Everyone went to bed early, closing windows firmly on their way. From outside, though it was almost dark, shreds of the hard brown-yellow light lingered on the rims of things, and there was a wind beginning, small gusts that rattled the fence gate and set the trees to rustling. The smell of rain hung sweet in the air. "What a week this has been," said Winnie's grandmother. "Well, thank the Lord, it's almost over." And Winnie thought to herself, "Yes, it's almost over." There were 3 hours to wait before midnight, and nothing whatever to do. Winnie wandered restlessly about her room, sat in her rocker, lay on her bed, counted the ticks of the hall clock. Beneath her excitement she was thick with guilt. For the second time in 3 short days, though they seemed many more than that, she was about to do something which she knew would be forbidden. She didn't have to ask. Winnie had her own strong sense of rightness. She knew that she could always say afterward, "Well, you never told me not to." But how silly that would be. Of course, it would never occur to them to include such a thing in their list of don'ts. She could hear them saying, and almost smiled, "Now remember, Winifred, don't bite your fingernails, don't interrupt when someone else is speaking, and don't go down to the jailhouse at midnight to change places with prisoners." Still, it wasn't really funny. What would happen in the morning when the constable found her in the cell and had to bring her home for the second time? What would they say? Would they ever trust her again? Winnie squirmed, sitting in their rocker, and swallowed uncomfortably. Well, she would have to make them understand somehow, without explaining. The hall clock chimed 11. Outside, the wind had stopped. Everything, it seemed, was waiting. Winnie lay down and closed her eyes, thinking of Tuck and May, of Miles and Jessie. Her heart softened. They needed her. She would not disappoint them. May would go free. No one would have to find out. Winnie would not have to find out that May could not. But Winnie blocked the picture from her mind, the horror that would prove the secret. Instead, she turned her thoughts to Jessie. When she was 17, would she? If it was true, would she? And if she did, would she be sorry afterwards? Tuck had said, "It's something you don't find out how you feel until afterwards." But no, it wasn't true. She knew that now. Here in her own bedroom, they were probably crazy after all, but she loved them anyway. They needed her. In thinking this, Winnie fell asleep. She woke with a jerk sometimes later and sat up, alarmed. The clock was ticking steadily. The darkness was complete. Outside, the night seemed poised on tiptoe, waiting, holding its breath for the storm. Winnie stole out to the hall and frowned at the clock face in the shadows, and at last she could make it out, for the black Roman numerals were just barely visible against their white ground. The brass hands glowed faintly. As she peered at them, the long hands snapped forward one more notch, with a loud click. She had not missed her moment. It was 5 minutes to midnight. Okay, that's the end of the chapter there. That's the end of 23. Ooh. The tension! Big stuff's about to happen just around the corner. Let's go back and look at the chapter. Oh, Natalie, we're creeping towards the climactic scene. We're inching our way up the hill. Okay, so 23. The sun was ponderous. Ponderous. Now, the key word in ponderous, root word rather, is ponder. Now, what do you do when you ponder something? You're thinking about something. So the sun is just sitting there. Looks kind of like it's thinking, like it's considering and just looking at everything. Just, okay. That's the sun. It's up there being ponderous. And then her own brimming glass. The glass is brimming with lemonade. Now, the root word of brimming is brim. Now, when something is full to the brim, it's full to the very tippy top. So, like if you had a glass that was filled to the brim with, I don't know, sweet tea, and then you're like, oh, this is kind of lukewarm. So you drop in some ice cubes, it's going to overflow because, molecules. So brimming, her glass is filled to the brim with lemonade. So have you ever tried to carry a glass that was filled all the way up with something? Oh, no. Okay, now I feel better. I don't know. You just take a little sip and it's not brimming. It's much easier to carry. Unless, of course, it's scalding hot, like hot chocolate or coffees or something. Because then you... So you got to leave it brimming for a second. Then you're really scared because if you get it on your hand and that hurts. But I've taken some kind of detour here. Brimming. The clock ticked deliberately. The key word, the root word there in deliberately is deliberate. So when you're doing something deliberately, you're doing something on purpose. Like in the Lion King movie, the original one, the cartoon, the good one. They say, Mufasa says to Simba, "You deliberately disobeyed me. You disobeyed me on purpose." So the clock is ticking deliberately. It's got a purpose. It knows what it's doing. That clock is on a mission to tick. Grandmother's. Oh, I'm sorry. I think I said that was her grandmother's clock. That is, in fact, her grandfather's clock. Excuse me, grandfather's clock. Okay. Now that let's look back at the first line of the first paragraph. Longest day, mindlessly hot, unspeakably hot, too hot to even move or think. Oh, that's got to be a hyperbole, I think, because they're making it so much bigger. She's making it so much too hot. I think it's too hot to think out here. Come on. The sun was a ponderous circle. That's got to be a metaphor. A roar without sound. A blazing glare. So many metaphors right there. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, now, what else we got? Now, outside, the very last chapter of the last paragraph of the chapter, she says, outside, the night seemed poised on tiptoe, waiting, holding its breath. That's got to be a personification. Nights don't have tiptoes or breaths. So this is a personification. She's given human traits to the nighttime. So very good job, Natalie. I see what you did there. All right, that's 23. We're getting close. It's just about to rain, too. Just about to rain. Because remember, it's felt so hot. It's so oppressive. Not just in this last chapter, but all the chapters leading up to it. It's so hot. It's so humid. It's so muggy. It's so warm and hot outside. Oh, if it was just so humid, maybe if we just have a little bit of rain, if we could just have some rain. Winnie longed for a thunderstorm. And now there's clouds rolling in. The wind is picking up just a little bit. It's about to rain. So all this tension. Something's about to happen. Something's about to happen. And boy, howdy, am I excited. Well, I'm going to leave you guys alone with your thoughts. Go ahead and process that. Think about chapter 23. 24 is coming up next. I'm going to go eat some ice cream now. All right, I'm excited. Okay, I'll catch you guys next time. You wild hooligans. Stay frosty.